Morning. As we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding on Chumash Pasha Shmini. We're holding on chapter 9 in the book of Leviticus, chapter 9, verse number 1. Vayi Bayem Shmini was on the 8th day. Called Moshe Aaron. Moshe Rabbeinu called Aaron Levanov and to his children, Ulazikni Yisrael, and to the elders of the Jewish people. Now she says, Vayi Bayem Shmini, which 8th day of what? Limeluyim. This is the 8th day to the day of investors. Huras Chodesh Nisan. This was the first day of the month of Nisan. Shehukam HaMishkan, that the Mishkan was established. B'yayim v'notal aseres hataris. As brought in the Gemara, they took 10 crowns. The Suda Seder Elam is enumerated in Seder Elam Teres Kayanim. Ulazikni Yisrael, to inform them that it was expressed, command of God, that Aaron was to enter the Kohuna, Gedela, on the 8th day, that when he would become the Kohen Gadol. The people shouldn't say later that he took it for himself. It didn't help that much. Later we have the story of Kairach. And Aaron said, Kachas Egel, take the Egel, take the calf. Ben Bakar, the bull calf. Lachatas, Vayel Echad, and then take two rams. One ram. Vayel Tmimim, they should be unblemished. V'hakel ifnei Hashem, and bring it before God. She says this came to show that the Eibishter forgave Aaron on the sin of the golden calf. Because over here, he took a calf. Tell the Jewish people, take a he-goat as lachatas, as a sin offering, ve'egel, and take a calf, the keves, and a lamb, b'nei shana, that's within the year, Timimim, that is unblemished, la'oila, for a burnt offering. Verse number 4, you have taken an ox and a ram for a peace offering. L'zbeil of Hashem, to sacrifice before God. Umincha, and then you have to have a meal offering, belula b'shemen, that is mixed with oil. Ki hayom hadishem nira lechem, because today the Eibishter will reveal himself to you. What does that mean? To make his shechina rest in the work of your hands, the work of the Mishkan. For this reason, this sacrifice was an obligation of that day. And they took what Moshe Rabbeinu commanded. To the front of the tent of meeting. And the entire community approached. And they stood before God. Moshe Rabbeinu said, this is what the Eibishter commanded that you shall do. And the Eibishter God will appear to you. Moshe Rabbeinu said to Aaron, come closer to the Mizbeach. Make your sin offering. Your burnt offering. Bring forgiveness to yourself. And for the Jewish people. And do the sacrifice of the people. And bring forgiveness to them. Hashem, as God has commanded. She says Moshe Rabbeinu had to push, so to say, Aaron, because Aaron was bashful, afraid to approach the Mizbeach. So the Moshe Rabbeinu said, why are you ashamed? This function you were chosen for. This is what you were chosen. You have nothing to be embarrassed. Make your chatascha, the bull calf, the ram, korban hayam. What's the sacrifice to the people? Was the he-goats, the calf and the lamb. Whenever they qualify the word egel, calf, is stated in the Torah, it denotes one of the first year. This is the rule, is derived from the passage. The term par, one in 3 years. Egel ben Bakar is the one in the second year. Egel is one in the first year. So there are these 3 different expressions. That Egel is within the year. Par is within the 3 years. And the ben Bakar is within the 2 years. Yaakov came to the Mizbeach. He slaughtered the sin. That's the Egel, the calf. That's a chatos, the sin offering. And the sons of Adam brought the blood. He put his finger into the blood. He put it on the corners of the altar. I say to Mizbeach, and then he poured the blood, the rest of the blood, on the foundation of the altar. And then he took the fat. He took the kidneys. I said it's menakav, and he took the diaphragm with the liver. Menachatas that was from this offering. He burnt on the altar. Kasher tziva Hashem that God commanded. And then the rest of he burnt the flesh and the hide in the fire. Mechutz lamachna was the korban chatas again. A korban chatas, a sin offering, was burnt outside the camp. Rashi says we don't find, because it's a private chatas, you don't find in the Torah outside sin offerings, and whose blood was sprinkled outside the altar to be burnt outside the camp. Only the Yom Kippur sacrifice, community sin offering, or Kohen Gadol sin offering, but you don't find it by a personal offering. Here they did it even for a personal offering. That's why Rashi says this was the only place that it's mentioned this concept. All these exceptions were burnt as expressed a command by God. And then he slaughtered the oila, the burnt offering. And Aaron and his son presented within the blood. And he dashed it on the altar, around the altar. Now she says the night's presentation and preparation. Then he presented the burnt offering to him in its prescribed pieces. The head, and he put it on the altar to burn. Then he washed the innards and the legs. And he caused it also to go up on the mizbeach. And then he brought the sacrifice of the people. He took the people's sin offering, and he slaughtered it, and he made it as an offering kadisha like he did the first one. Now she says, what does that mean? He sacrificed it according to the laws of a sin offering. Kadishain, ke'egel shalei, like he did for his own calf, which was a sin offering he did for the calves of the people. The egels for the people. And he brought up the burnt offering. He brought upon the burnt offering. He did it according to the law. As she said, which is specified regarding the voluntary burnt offering in Parshas Vayikra, in the beginning of the book, chapter 1, verse 170. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya of the day. We are holding the 38th chapter of Tanya, chapter 38. Slowly coming to the completion of the first part of the Tanya, which has 52 chapters. So in the previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe discusses the distinctive merit of mitzvahs performed by speech and action, for by means of them, the vitalizing soul is elevated to holiness. That's the avodah. That's the whole avodah. As the Alter Rebbe ended yesterday, the godly soul doesn't need to have any purity. The godly soul comes down to purify your animal soul. Mitzvahs have this ability to purify this animal soul, to uplift it. For they are performed with the power, because ultimately you cannot do a mitzvah in this world without your physical self, without your body and all your koiches, etc. You need food, etc. So therefore, every mitzvah that I do ultimately is done with my vital soul, with my nefesh habahamis, which cannot do anything without doing this without my body. That's it. That perform them with the physical tongue and lips, etc., and the utterance of Torah mitzvahs. So that's what I'm talking right now. When I talk and I'm learning Torah with you, needs to have my animal soul. My animal soul gives me my strength to talk, etc. Since the ultimate intent of the soul descent is not for the sake of the soul alone, but in order to elevate the vitalizing soul and the corporal body, this is accomplished specifically through mitzvahs that require physical action and speech. And that's the beauty of the makeup of a human being with his godly soul. Now the Alter Rebbe continues and it says, the light of all what was said above, Yuvan Hativ, concerning the practical virtue of the mitzvah performed in action, speech, and the elevation of the vital soul to holiness, Yuvan Hativ, we will understand clearly. We'll clearly understand. Psak halacha, a halachic decision, harucha b'talmud, which is brought down in the Gemara, Poskim, in the codes of Jewish law. The Hiru Lafke Dibidam, that meditation is not valid in lieu of verbal allocation. So, for example, as he's going to say, like davening. When I daven, I can't daven with my mind. I need to daven with my lips. If somebody said the mitzvah, because the mitzvah to say Krishma every day, the Shema, twice a day. And if I said the Shema in my thought, in my heart, even though I did it with the full power of my concentration, I was fully concentrated in the Shema, but you didn't do the mitzvah. You didn't do the mitzvah. And I have to repeat it again. I simply have to say the Shema again. Reciting the Shema by merely meditating on the words that comprise it must repeat it verbally. I've simply got to repeat it again and say the Shema again. And those two, in the concept of when I say brachas after the meal, since it's a mitzvah deraisa, because it says v'achalta v'savata, you shall eat and you shall drink, uveirachta, and you have to make a bracha. So you have to say grace after meals. So therefore, you got to say it. If you're going to think that the bracha, you didn't do the mitzvah. So although the Torah does not state regarding blessing after meal as it does Shema, and you shall speak these words, one cannot fulfill the duty by merely thought. You have to say it. Ubishad, so that's the iraisa. That I'm obligated. Ubishad brachas derabanan. So too it affects because all brachas that we say is midrabanan, right? Similarly, the other blessings, although they are merely rabbinic in origin, all first brachas in general, are all what the Chachamim made, right? Prayer, mitfilah, majority of prayer is all midrabanan, right? Because only the Shema is a deraisa, is a Torah obligation. The rest of davening is a derabanan, all the prayers that we say. So although prayer service is service of the heart, it cannot be confined to the heart. You have to say it. Halacha tells you you have to say it that you own ears can hear it. It must be articulated orally. The Rebbe comments that halacha poses no instinct difficulty, since one can do more. Since one can no more, ask why God stipulated that a particular thought, Shema, prayer, and the like, must also be verbalized. Then one can ask why the mitzvahs are ordained at all. However, we must understand why it is when a mitzvah is composed of both speech and thought. The law states that verbalization without intent does fulfill the obligation. Intent without verbalization does not. It's interesting. So you have all the intent, you have all the meditation, but if you don't say the bracha, you didn't make the bracha. You can have no intent, you say the bracha, you did the mitzvah. So that's the way it is. For this reason, the Alter Rebbe continued, that's you see the power of action. That even though one has all the understanding, all the comprehension, but he doesn't say the Shema with his mouth, he didn't do the mitzvah. While one who has no comprehension says it, does the mitzvah. So we see that the word, that's why the Gemara says, Akima Svasav Lehava Maisa. That's what the Gemara says, without moving your lips. Thus, Hiro Lafka Dibidami. Thought is not speech. And if one spoke the words of Shema, he did not concentrate his thought on it, he has post facto fulfilled the obligation. Yotzi there be the evidence. Although initially required to concentrate, sure you should know you shouldn't daven without concentration. Nobody's arguing with that. Everybody should concentrate exactly what they're davening. But if he davened and his mind was something else, someplace else, he not need to repeat it with the concentrate. Not to repeat it. He doesn't have to go back. He did the bracha. In halacha, surely you're not allowed to go back with a bracha. If I said a bracha and I was not thinking about it, I can't go back to say the bracha again. It's bracha levatala, and the bracha was done. Vad mi pasuk rishon. We said there's an exception. Every law has an exception. That is the first verse of Shema. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. If I had no intent, I have to go back and read it again. Ubracha shenet shil shmanesin. So too the first bracha, Magin Avram. If I said that bracha without intent, I have to go back and read that bracha. Isa, as it brought down in the Gemara brachas, Atka mitzvah kavana, that these are the only things that you have to have kavana. Also, Pesach Hazedecha, when you say in Ashrei, Pesach Hazedecha, open your hands, Umasbil L'chol Chayrot. So you'll see the siddur, it's written that you have to have content. You have to have intention. You have to have concentration. You have to know what you're saying. But that's 3 verses in the whole siddur. So the rest of the davening, if I was davening and I had no intentions, I have no understanding, I just was davening, I did the mitzvah. That's it. So how then are we to reconcile both halachas? Why is thought without speech not as acceptable as speech without thought? So why is it like, wait, even though b'chol levavcha, you have your heart's important, your intent is important, but it seemingly sounds like even though the intent is important, this action is more important. The answer lies in discussion the unique status of mitzvah performed in action and speech. That's the past. That's the power. You're right. Intent is very important, and everybody should do, everything you do should be with intent, and everything you should do should be with meditation. But the power, everything is in the power of action. And speech is an action. Why? So what the answer is simple. As we explained before, because the divine soul does not need to be perfect itself through mitzvahs. The divine soul needs the action. The divine soul needs the speech. It needs the speech and the action. Even though it loves the kavanah, it loves also the kavanah, but it needs the speech and the action. Like laham shechur, its goal. The godly soul has one goal: to bring down the light of God in the world. L'sakin nefesh achayunis v'aguf, to rectify, to perfect the body and the vital soul of the body. That's it. That's its journey. It doesn't want to get involved in anything but the rectification. Problem is, now when we get to the mind and the thoughts, we sometimes lose our action because they're too involved in the meditation, and if it's right, it's wrong. It comes to philosophers. But therefore, to the godly soul, what's important? All this thought is great. All this contemplation, all this meditation is unbelievable. But as long as it comes to the action, if you have all the thought and meditation, you don't do the action, then you waste the time. To the godly soul. To the godly soul, it didn't accomplish its mission. So therefore, to the godly soul, he wants action. That's why the Yidden said, Nasa v'nishma. Sure, they had nishma, will understand, will contemplate. But Nasa, we will do, comes first. And that has to be the whole contemplation. When a Jew contemplates and meditates, it's all for the action. And it has to, and if it's not, then he's missing the point. Then all his meditation, all his thoughts are but fantasies. So therefore, it needs to be, to begin with, why am I going to meditation? Is for the action. This is accomplished when it means letters of speech. When the soul utters these words of Torah, by the means of the 5 organs, right? Because the soul cannot say these words without the mouth. The 5 organs of articulation. Through the mitzvahs of action, which the soul performs. The soul, ultimately, the godly soul, cannot perform this mitzvah without the body's other organs. And therefore, the soul needs the body to accomplish its mission. It doesn't want its soul to be a godly mission. In the concept of relative spirituality, it didn't have to come down into the world. The point of the soul was to bring down the spirituality into physicality. That was its mission. That's what it needs to accomplish. That's what the Alter Rebbe said. That was the general mission of the Jewish nation. Was given a Mount Sinai to do 630 commandments. And so too, every neshama has a physical mission. That's what it came down only for that. So the mitzvah involving speech and action, which utilize the power of the vital soul and the organs of the body, serves to elevate them. That's its mission. Since the ultimate goal is the purification of the vital soul in the body, thought alone, being the province of the divine soul, cannot satisfy the demands of mitzvah speech and the required verbal articulation. Speech alone, however, without thought is sufficient, since the vital soul and the body are elevated thereby. So my animal soul doesn't need so much kavanah. My animal soul doesn't need so much intent, right? We know the animal soul, when it comes to eating, I don't need so much kavanah. I don't have to meditate 2 hours before I enjoy my food. It's very easy. I go straight to the food, I enjoy it, and it's a machaya. Anything in life that I enjoy, I don't have that much kavanah. It's very easy. My animal soul has all the kavanah already. It's already inbuilt. So the animal soul needs action. That's the way the animal soul works. That's the animal soul. It enjoys the action. Lights, camera, action. And the godly soul understands that. And therefore the godly soul says, I know what the animal soul needs. It needs action. And therefore I need to make sure that the animal soul does godly actions. Not only does actions for itself, it does godly actions. And that's my agenda. I have no other agenda in the world but that agenda, that the human being should speak the words of Torah and should do mitzvahs in the world. That's my purpose. No other purpose in the world, because that is dira b'tartein, because that is the agenda of God, to bring God in this world. And that completes the Tanya of the day. The day is the 21st day of the month of Adar, the second day of the second month of Adar. If you say chapter 104 and 105 in your Tillim, you would do the chitas of the day. I wish you all a wonderful, beautiful, happy, healthy day, wonderful week. Bezat Hashem, we'll see you at 10 o'clock. You're welcome to come back. Either come to not to Chabad, to the JEI, the school next to Chabad, or come on Zoom and come and learn some more Tanya today. Have a wonderful and beautiful and happy and healthy day.